Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Vic the Ninja Closer here. I'm with JD Daley, my mentor and mentor of the Undeniable Closer Mastermind. Last time we talked, JD, we talked about who you were, kind of what you did, and you mentioned something that I kind of wanted to bring back up. You said you were a career transition expert. So I'd like to dive in today and kind of get an understanding of what that is and just make sure that everybody who's watching can kind of understand where that came from and what that is as well.
Awesome. I love it. Thanks for having me, Vic.
Sweet. So let's just jump in. Career transition expert. Like, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's not something that when I was a kid, I grew up and think like, when I get older, I'm going to be a career transition expert. It just came from seeing that so many people get hung up on that aspect. There's 10 or 15 top sales trainers out there. There's people making millions of dollars a month, and no one's teaching the most important aspect, because you can be the best closer in the world. If you can't make the transition smoothly, then you're SOL. And
Yeah.
so for me, a career transition expert is someone who understands the journey from inexperience or no experience, working 9 to 5 or shift work or back shift, going into an industry that you don't know and don't have the idea of what's really going on here, and being able to make those transitions throughout your career to top performer or wherever you want to end up. And so I look at it as everybody thinks about that one transition, right? From out of high ticket into high ticket. But I look at transitions a little bit different in that there's many career transitions that you're going to go through, and we focus on them all. And so the first is obviously from 9 to 5 into high ticket closing or into high ticket sales. But then there's also, what if you take an entry level position and you'd like to transition into a more intermediate position? Or what if you want to get promoted? Or what if you want to transition out of the company that gave you a start into a company that you can grow into? And
Yeah.
then from there, let's say you get into a closing position and you're performing. How do you transition from closer to top closer? So I help people with those transitions and make sure that everything goes smoothly and that they're not taking on tons of risk.
That's interesting you say that, because a lot of programs, a lot of things that you'll come across, they say you should just jump right in, dive right in, burn those bridges and just kind of make it happen right now, or else you're never going to be successful because it's a mindset thing. What do you
Yeah.
say to that kind of rhetoric?
Well, I think it's great if they're willing to pay the bills if it doesn't work out.
Mm.
It's very easy, and something I've been very mindful of is that I want to share my experience. I want to share my resources. I do not want to be the decision maker for your life or anybody else's, right? You know what you're comfortable with. You have to pay the bills. If it doesn't work out or something happens, right? It's up to you. And so it's very easy for a coach, and it's kind of sexy. It's something like, oh yeah, 10 days, 14 days, 21 days, 0 to 10K. People are lining up down the block to work with you. Everybody in this industry for more than a day understands that that's not the case.
Yeah.
It's not easy, but it is simple. And so what we have to look at is making steps. So I look at it like, would you rather take a giant leap over a river and hope you don't get wet, or lay out stones that you can walk across?
Mhm.
And so my job is not to make it harder or to delay it. My job is to make sure that you're not taking a step back. For my students, I make sure that you don't walk back to work with your tail between your legs and say, hey, you remember that time I quit? Well, it didn't work out. I need this job back. Right. And so
Yeah.
I'm all about making sturdy steps forward so that when you take that step, there's no going back. And then we take the next step and the next step. And so I think it's selfish and inconsiderate of someone else's situation to say, hey, quit your job and take this giant leap. And if you don't pay your bills this month, then go in massive debt. That's okay. We've already made our money off you.
Yeah. And I think that for some people, that giant leap is exactly what they need. But like you
Mhm.
said, they've got the savings, they've got the setup to where their bills can be paid, or their
That's
bills
right.
are very minimal. And but that's not everybody's case. It's not
That's
everybody's
it.
situation.
No, and we deal with a lot of students in that I give them the options, right? And they pick the best option. Some people say, you know what? I have some money in the bank and I'm never going to do this unless I go all in. There's nothing wrong with that.
Mhm.
But that shouldn't be the one size fits all, it's all or nothing type situation. Other people that have 4 kids, a mortgage, bills to pay. It's going to be a very different situation than someone who's 18, 19 years old, living in their parents' basement that can really take that leap, right? And
Yeah.
so we have to look situationally at the person and what they have. And so I typically look at three resources because to make any decision, we have to be able to identify what resources make sense. And so there's time, there's money, and there's experience. If you have all three and a lot of it, then yeah, take the leap, right? If you're an experienced person, you know that you're going to be attractive to the job market. You have some money in the bank, let's say you have 6 months saved and you have the time to be able to do this. Why not?
Yeah.
Right? Make that leap. But if you're low on money and experience, right, and high on time, or low on all three, you have to make a transition very differently than someone who can go all in and not have to worry about consequences.
Yeah. So tell me, like, you have students that you guide through and that you work through with these processes and the decisions they make and trying to change their life and trying to come into sales. What are you finding is the typical time frame or typical response from these students when they can properly do this?
Mm. Yeah, it's tough because the response time before they come and work with us is a lot different than once they work with us. And so again, we have to look at situations. I would say that what we found is within 15 days we can find meaningful employment for almost anybody, right? 15 to 20 days depending on how much catch up they need.
Yeah.
And then obviously there's going to be a learning curve, right? You don't come in day one, or very rarely do you come in day one on a sales campaign and just top the leaderboard 10K that month, right?
Right.
There's a build up, there's a learning curve. Whether I've been doing this 16 years and 25 million sold. If I start a new campaign, or a brand new person starts a new campaign, we're both going to have a learning curve. There's still a new process of learning this. So I typically say, let's take 2 weeks to find the job, 2 weeks to really learn and develop in the campaign and build a strong foundation. So that's your month one. By month two, you should be looking at making significant commissions. Now, whether that's part time or full time, that's going to be different, right? If you can work evenings and weekends, or you can work one day a week, that's going to make the duration different. And so it's really based on that time.
And do you teach people how to find the job or do you actually help them find the job as well?
Yeah, I mean, we started out just teaching, and we realized, so it's always, I struggle because it's always a constant balance for me of, I want people to be independent. I see a lot of programs out now and they say, pay me these large sums of money, I'll hook you up with a job. But what happens if that job doesn't work out? You haven't learned anything and you're
Yeah.
always dependent on that person. So what are you going to pay again and again every time a job doesn't work out? So what I do is first teach you how to independently build your network, outreach with consistency and with results, interview so to make sure that when you get in front of your dream employer, that you are the best candidate for the job, and then the career development side. So what jobs to take, when to move on, how to get promotions, how to leverage your results to get better opportunities. That's what I focus on. And so I always say, like, I teach someone to fish, but I also put a few fish in the bucket just to get started.
Yeah.
So I've been building my network for 16 years on high integrity and over delivering. And so I've built that network up. So there are lots of opportunities. I'm not going to give them away to just anybody, but if someone shows that they're putting in the work, they're committing, they're showing up, and I feel like they have what it takes, not as far as like past performance, but like reliability, integrity, honesty, trustworthy communication, things like that, then we're going to connect them with as many people in our network, recruiters, coaches, as many as possible to make sure they have that first opportunity.
Nice. So let's switch gears for a second. So for someone already in sales who's
Mhm.
been, at a decent job or a gig, we should say, and it's kind of struggling to hit that next mark and level in their career,
Yeah.
how would that transition work for you?
Yeah, that's a big one. I mean, a lot of the people that come to me, because now it's a big market, right? And we've created groups and other people have created groups. So there's jobs. And the one thing I would say is a lot of people fall into the trap. Kind of the standard I see, they buy a course, they upgrade that course, anywhere from $2,000 to $10,000. It's all based on sales training. They get out, they're excited, they're confident, they've done their role plays, and then they get into the job market. And whatever it is, it could be the pressures from home, maybe their family doesn't understand what they're trying to do, it could be financial pressures. They get on this like tunnel vision job hunt. They just
Mm,
only look for a job because in the real world, a job does matter, right? When you sign up for a job, typically, whatever you sign up for, you're going to get. In a
right.
performance based business like this, the job means nothing. Anybody can offer you a job, right? But what happens is you find yourself in what we call the 10% entrepreneur role. I think we might have talked about this last time,
Yeah.
but it's that role where there's no leads, there's very little sales, there's no training support. If it is, it's minimal. There's no other people, other top performers that you can learn and grow off of. And so basically, you have a product or an invention, and you're there to build the business from scratch. A
Mm,
lot of people starting out can't do that. It took me years to figure out how to develop a sales process. Should we go one call or two call process? You know, how are we dealing with the calendar setup and no show rates? There's a lot to it. And so by having that tunnel vision on the job, we miss the opportunities because we're in a rush to take whatever. And typically, when we act out of desperation, we get desperate results. And so what happens is you get these people that are confident in their sales ability. They're just like, put me in, coach, I'm ready to go. And then they sit on the sideline and they sit typically, you know, I've seen pretty much from 1 to 3 months seems to be the window because the coach, just like a bad relationship, is telling them things are going to change. Oh, we're going to do this tomorrow. And oh, we're upping the prices. We're going to get more leads. And so they stay a little bit longer because they remember what it was like not to have a job.
hmm
So, really, the biggest mindset shift for that transition, and that's what we deal with a lot, is the difference between a job and an opportunity. The
Yeah.
job title doesn't matter, how much commission they offer you doesn't matter. It's will they facilitate you to be able to do your job at the highest level? Is everything set up so you learn, you grow, you develop, and you perform? That's it. You should not be building businesses for 10 or 15%. Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And so it's first that mindset shift. And then one thing that we teach is a top-down strategy. And I won't go in depth here, but that's the biggest thing is when people come into the market, they're told a few things. Cold outreach, job applications, start at the bottom, earn your way to the top. None of those things work anymore.
hmm
Right? When I first entered 7, 8 years ago, some of those things could work, right? There was very little competition. There wasn't 10,000 new closers coming in. All the competition's at the bottom. So why would you start at the bottom, right? And so it's really the biggest thing is these people coming in can close. Once we get them in opportunities where there's a real opportunity, real leads, you know, real consistency, they do well. They perform. You know, our top rep is doing 45K a month,
Yeah.
right? And so they just need the opportunity behind it. And that doesn't come from job applications and cold outreach and starting from the bottom. You need to be able to trust your opportunity. And the way to build trust is through a network.
Yeah. 100%. So you've said you've built your network over the last 16 years.
Mhm.
You've extended your network to people that you feel worthy of it. How do you feel that the people coming in and the people who have learned and are growing, how do you feel that they're doing with that network? Do you feel like they're expanding it themselves, or do you feel like it's one of those things where you're kind of finding that it's hit or miss with some of the people that come in?
Of course. I mean, we spend 80 hours with each student, you know, pretty much 10 times more than most offers out there. And there's still going to be people that want you to do things for them. There's still going to be people. It's whenever we go into uncertainty, that's when you really see people's true colors. And it's not that they're a bad person. They're just not used to being uncomfortable. Right. And so oftentimes in reward type situations in normal jobs, it's you do something, you get a reward for it. You do something, you get this. You work an hour, you get $15. You work overtime, you get time and a half. You do this, you get recognition. And when it comes to networking or really anything in this business, it's more of a compounding interest. It's more of an investment scenario
Mm,
than a one for one. And so what I think is the hang up is one, a little bit of fear of failure of everybody wants to take the perfect action instead of taking an action, engaging the results and making adjustments. They want to know that whatever they do next is going to be that thing that unlocks all this magical opportunity. And I don't think it's their fault. I think that's what they're being sold. They've been sold that there's this dream opportunity where coaches are lining up down the block and they'll stuff their pockets full of money, and all their dreams are there. And so they bought into that, and they're seeing a totally different universe when they get in here. And so there's still some people realize very early, oh, I bought into some marketing. And other people are like, well, are you the person that's going to have this dream? Like, I'm still looking for this dream.
Hmm.
And so I always think of it like investing, because it makes sense to me. And that if I invest, let's say I bought some shares of a company today, and every 4 minutes I was checking it, and I was ready to jump off a bridge every time it had a downslope, and I'm ready to retire every time it went up, right? Like, I would drive myself crazy.
Yeah.
That's not it. You have to invest for the long run and say, okay, I'm going to put a percentage of my time or money or resources into this because I believe that it's going to build over time. Well, networking is the same way. I don't know if the next person I reach out is going to be a six-figure opportunity, or the 10th person, or the 15th person. Very much when I used to do cold calling, it was the same thing. I don't know if my 60th call is going to be a deal or my 160th. It's not my job to know what the outcome is going to be of each action. My job is to be consistent with my action, to make sure that I'm compounding all that effort to get that result at some point. But people are just inconsistent, right? People want they take a step and then they look back to see if the step was straight. It's like,
Hmm.
keep moving till you get to a new vantage point. And so I think that for the majority of our students are amazing. Once they understand, I think that people entering this industry are more intelligent than a lot of trainers give them credit for. They
Hmm.
tell them what to say. They tell them, this is the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. I focus a lot of my energy on the why. Why is it set up like this? Why do you have to go through these hoops? Why is there an intro video? Why are there two different offers that look the same but totally different? And giving people a deeper understanding of why, I've realized that they can make better decisions on their own.
Yeah.
That's,
Hmm.
you know, long answer for a short question, but
Awesome.
there's a lot of different scenarios there.
So quickly, we'll end with this. We talk about transitioning into sales, talk about the different types of things that need to happen and the mindset that needs to happen. But what do you find the typical 9 to 5s or occupations? What are some of the best to transition to sales from, or some of the easiest transitions?
Yeah, I mean, I look at from my days in recruiting, I look at a couple things, right? And performance is probably number 6 or 7 on the list,
Hmm.
right? And so integrity was always number one. I don't care if you have a silver tongue. If I can't trust you in that role to speak with honesty and integrity, I can't put you in that role no matter how great at sales you are, right? And so I look at these roles of honesty, integrity, transparency, communication, hardworking, effort and grit, determination, reliability. So some of the roles are some of the jobs that I see a lot of this. Any first line responder, we've had a lot of success with nurses, police officers, firefighters, paramedics, anything in that medical industry. Because when you look at it, a lot of what we do is, I mean, we even call it a triage call,
Hmm.
right? A lot of what we do is diagnosing. So many closers fall in love with the solution, but really what we deal with on a daily basis is people's problems. People come to us, I'm not making enough money, I'm not healthy, I don't like the way I look, I'm lacking confidence, I'm depressed, I'm anxious, I hate my job. Like, this is depending on what niche you're in, those are what you're really getting. You're getting raw information of what the pain is. And so we have to be able to diagnose the problem and prescribe a solution. And so I think anything in that kind of, first responder or medical field or anything like that, anything that's forward facing. So if you're dealing with the community, um, one thing that I've thought of recently is like flight attendants.
Yeah.
Flight attendants or anybody dealing with airlines. I used to work in Northern Canada on the airlines, and you're dealing with people like, very often you're not dealing with happy people, when you have to conflict resolute, it's not, hey, I missed my flight, I'm having a great day, I'm supposed to be at a wedding tomorrow, like, take your time, right? And so anyone that has that forward facing communication, that understands anything to do with therapy, or there's a ton really, retail, customer service, and also, like, not to discount the trades, because the work ethic, the reliability, they typically are willing to put in the grind,
Hmm.
and there is a lot of opportunities for people to sell to like-minded individuals as well. So I think the biggest thing is just not thinking of it like, oh, this is sales, I need to have a salesperson mentality. We have introverts, we have, you know, all walks of life here. And it's really about connecting and being able to help people with their problems. If you feel like you can do that, you can learn everything else.
Yeah, 100%. Awesome. Well, thanks, man. Thanks for coming on again, once
My
again,
pleasure.
just talking to us, trying to give us an understanding of what it is that you're actually doing and what a career transition expert is. And hopefully we can help some people take that step, take that leap, and make the transition themselves and change their lives and their family's life.
I would love that. I think that, people are unhappy, with everything going on with COVID, and even before that, job satisfaction is at an all-time low.
Yeah.
But it's a rat race. I've been in it. You've been in it. We've all been in, careers and jobs that we don't like, but we do it because bills are due next month. All I would say is you have the time, whether it's an hour a night on the weekends, take that time. It's not going to happen overnight, but take the actions and start moving, because in a month, in 2 months, in 3 months, you could be working your dream career with time freedom, location freedom, and working towards financial freedom. And so that's the biggest thing I would say is, even if you feel stuck right now, just look for those opportunities, because they are there. I've come from it, and it is possible.
Awesome. Thanks, JD.
No problem. Take care.